Noah Basketball is our new presenting sponsor of our Coaching You podcast. Noah Basketball is a shot tracking and data company that has helped change how coaches and players perfect the game's most important skill, shooting. Noah is a data service provider that uses machine learning and the latest computer vision technology to provide real-time data and feedback to improve shooting accuracy and consistency for professional and amateur basketball players. Noah has now analyzed over 570 million shots from countless high school, hundreds of college teams, and 28 NBA franchises. The technology is simply amazing. Once the system has been installed, players will be able to get immediate feedback on their shooting arc, left and right positioning, depth, makes or misses, and makes the data available to players and coaches on your mobile device. For more information about how Noah can help your team, visit noahbasketball.com. Hey, welcome to another Coaching You podcast with the coach, Brendan Suhr, presented by Noah Basketball. And what an opportunity today to not just say presented by Noah Basketball, but Noah Basketball is our guest today. John Carter, CEO. Welcome, my friend.
Hey, thanks, Brendan. We're excited to be here.
You know, John, back in May when we met, Zach and I saw you in Alabama at the clinic and watched you present. And as I've told you since, every time we see each other, having been in coaching over 50 years, you know, I consider myself pretty much a subject matter expert on everything in the game, especially the strategic parts of it. And I listened to a half-hour presentation from you, and I was very distraught that all of a sudden I realized for 50 years I was screwing kids and didn't know what the hell I was teaching them the wrong way to shoot, which is the most important skill. I am a defensive coach. I love all the offensive side, but if you can't put the ball in the basket, and when I listened to you, I said, my God, if I had learned this, this would be incredible. So tell me, how the heck did you ever start in this thing? This is nothing you go to college for. This is nothing you major in, but you come up with a solution, and frankly, it's something that we work on every single day. Kids at every age go out to the playground or in the gym and they shoot the ball. How the hell did you come up with this?
Yeah, so it's the background story is interesting. So I won't go through all of the details, but basically this started in a driveway in the Silicon Valley in California. So Alan Marty, who was the original founder, had the original idea. He was trying to help, like a lot of dads, trying to help his daughter shoot better. And in his estimation, she was shooting too flat. And we joke and tell people that the original Noah system was a rake attached to a ladder. That was the first Noah. And then I won't bore you with all the details. Alan's a very successful VC. And he and I connected way back when in the beginning. And I came on board at that point and have been building the product, building the company ever since then. And that was 20 years ago. It's hard to believe it's been that long, and so you know the Marty kids and the Carter kids were kind of the first guinea pigs for this thing early on, including those of us that like to shoot. So it's been quite a run, and interestingly, I spent a number of years when there was only a couple of us here, and we were basically barnstorming gyms. Anywhere we could get into a gym, we had this big prototype system that we would go into. You heard me explain it a little bit at Coach Shy's clinic. And we would test. You know, we would always say, hey, bring me a couple of your best shooters and a couple of your worst shooters. And we started to really kind of surround what a great shooter looked like. And then we had some real expertise. We had literally a rocket scientist that was involved way back when, Dr. Thomas Edwards, and He helped us with a lot of, a lot of projections, a lot of predictions, and things like that. And more or less over time, we got the problem completely surrounded as to what leads to better shooting.
I was having a conversation with Zach recently, and I said, if you really study entrepreneurs, and you're an entrepreneur, John, and you study them, and you see where they started, whether it be Apple, or in the garage, or in Microsoft, in the class, in their dorm room, and you see where people do, and where you started with the rake and the ladder, and your first prototype being this very big, and then when you evolve and companies evolve, the product that you have now is absolutely one of the most incredible things I've ever seen. The college MBA product is super, but the product, and we'll talk about it later, that you've continued to evolve and develop is amazing. How does your mind work like that to keep getting better and better? It's like a coach, it seems to me.
Sure. Well, we have, like a lot of companies, like you said, we've had some very humble beginnings, from the driveway to literally to my tractor shed at my house. That's where we did most of the testing in the very early stages. And so, but it certainly evolved. We went out, and it's kind of interesting. You know how coaches are. You know them way better than me. But we originally built the product that coaches said they wanted. Mm-hmm. Okay. And I made it a point to go do 100 demos of our original product, just going around to anywhere and everywhere that I could get a coach, high school, college, or otherwise, that would give us some time. And we ended up building the product that they wanted. Well, what I found out was that was not really the product that they wanted. That was the product they thought they wanted. And so they wanted to be able to move it from gym to gym. They wanted to be able to put it in their car and move it to the gym across town and go here, there, and type thing. And those products are still out there today, and some people are still using those. But what we found, the people that will get something like that out and set it up every day, in the overall busyness of their coaching world, that's a small percentage. And so after a few years and really understanding that better, we went to put our efforts toward building a product that nobody has to do anything. It's just on 24/7. Yes, it's fixed to that hoop. You can't move it to the gym across the auxiliary gym or wherever. But that really changed things for us when it's just on 24/7. Players walk in, coaches walk in, they go to work.
So were you doing analytics before analytics became popular in the NBA?
Yeah, more or less.
In college,
because we were looking at whether you would call it statistics or analytics, or
right.
We were looking at all these
data,
deviations and data and how to move forward. But and I'm sure we'll get in the weeds here in a bit. But one of the things that we did very early on was we went around and did hundreds. I don't mean 50, 75. I mean 500 to 700 high school shooting clinics. And there's going to be people listening to this podcast that's going to say, oh, I remember that guy coming to my high school gym back in 2008 or whenever the time was. And we would test all their players, and then we would do a presentation. They would invite their parents, and luckily a good percentage of the time they would buy our product. And so we did that, and we collected all that data. And interestingly, if you look at the trajectory of a shot, and you've heard me, we'll talk about shooting deep in the basket at some point as well, but players that have close to the correct trajectory and close to the correct depth within a particular range, at the high school level, it's only 1 out of 11. So it's actually 8.8% to give you precision. And so it's no wonder when we got players on that team shooting the correct trajectory and getting the ball deeper in the basket, their shooting percentage started to zoom. And so that same 8.8% number climbs to over 50% at college, and it's probably 80% or more at the NBA level now. But that was one of the earlier things that just blew our mind. It's just, wow, these kids are, there's generally 1 or 2 kids on a team that's doing it correctly and everyone else is not.
So, John, as a coach, as I said incorrectly, I'm teaching my players to shoot the ball with great arc. Mm-hmm. I remember one of the things I learned at a clinic was when I was a player was a guy's, and you say it now to a kid, they'll say, what the hell are you talking about? And he'd say, make believe you're shooting out of a glass telephone booth, mm-hmm. and make sure you shoot the ball up and over the glass so you don't break the glass.
Right.
That will give you your arc. I love that. Oh, that's great. That's perfect. That's totally was incorrect. I mean, to a degree, and I thought I was the greatest lecturer on shooting when I'd go to camps and clinics. I said, man, I use that illustration. Now I go and if I ever set a phone booth, the kids don't even know what the hell you're talking about.
Yeah.
But I mean, but I think but how did you understand that it wasn't the arc that we were all taught?
Yeah. So, and you're not alone in that.
Thank you. Feel better
I was
about
taught the same thing growing up. Most
Yeah.
everyone thought higher is better,
Yeah.
and we think about it from just a simple geometry problem as, if the ball's coming straight down, there's more space around the ball.
Yeah.
So why would that not hold true? And so you have to really go back and unpeel the onion a little bit deeper and get it a little deeper to understand that. But basically, first off, a player shooting too high is just as bad as shooting too flat, and that's counterintuitive. It goes against what we were taught, but it absolutely is true. And I think I can explain this fairly well here. Do it better with slides and all those type things. But essentially, when a player's shooting too flat, the space just closes up, so you just can't make a good percentage. Every degree that you raise your arc, it is absolutely true that your shooting percentage goes up until you cross over 45 degrees, and then your percentage is just a perfect curve. It just starts going down. Jeez. And I would tell people to go to noahbasketball.com and look at that Science of Shooting page, and there's some charts there with millions and millions of shots of data that shows exactly what I just explained here. But essentially what happens, first off, there's no player that shoots the same arc every time. It's an impossible thing.
Really? Okay.
And so you generally, and then you add defense in, and now the trajectory varies even more. And so, but even with no defense, generally a player is going to have plus or minus 2 degrees on their trajectory. And so what we found, when you shoot in the mid-40s, you can actually have, a 43, then a 46, a 47, anywhere in that range, and the ball goes about the same distance at the rim. So there's very little change in the depth or the distance that the ball travels. But then you jump up in the mid-50s, where we see a lot of high school players and even some college players, and you go from say a 57 to a 55, the ball goes 7 inches further at the rim. And so, it starts here in the mid-40s, and as you raise your arc, that spray effect at the rim just gets wider and wider the higher you shoot it. Another thing we found is so important is we've taken some younger players or maybe some female players that kind of struggle getting the ball there. And when they lower their arc, their effective range sometimes will increase 6 or 8 feet.
Wow.
Because now their power's not all going up in the ceiling, it's actually going toward the rim. And just makes a huge difference. I can't stress that enough, and it's just absolutely one of the easiest things to fix, and it frustrates me to no end to watch a basketball game, whether it's on TV or sitting in a high school or middle school gym, and see a kid launching the ball that high, and I'm just sitting there saying, oh my gosh, this kid could be so much better.
That's incredible. So now tell us about the new Noah Backboard product and what's different about it, because this is what I kind of love, that what you're doing, or if you want to talk from pro to college to high school, because you've now you're helping everyone in the game. That's what I love about it now.
Sure. So just to talk briefly about the pro product, and then I really want to spend more time talking about the Backboard product. But our pro system, we have a bunch of 4K cameras in addition to the ball tracking. We do facial recognition, automatic shot type identification. There's all kinds of things there that allows you to do a really deep dive. You can have 3 players going through a workout at the same time. We're automatically tagging all the data to the correct player. So it's kind of a different level, both on the output and the expense side of things. But we have, which is a lot of fun for us, we have had an incredible year in the college market this year. We now have more, we call it our pro system. We now have more college customers using our pro system than we have pro teams using the pro system. That's how much the college market has grown for us, and we're excited about that. We're even seeing a lot of the mid-majors that are making the investment for our pro system, which we're excited about.
John, how about the women at the college system?
No, we've had several,
Because
a
I
really
think
good number. We're excited about that.
because the women are so good and they love the game so much, but I think shit, if I didn't know the arc, I know a lot of those girls didn't know, and so this would be so big. What a boom to their game, in my opinion.
Yeah.
And
But
I know
we
you
have
have
several
WNBA's teams,
Yeah,
right?
and we've got a lot of WNBA teams as well, and great. Women are such good learners. They're really, really good at this, and and I know, give a quick shout out to Coach Schaefer at University of Texas. They were the first women's program to
How about that?
to get our pro system, and great program, and they really do a great job. So we've been really pleased with where that particular product, and we're just continuing to evolve that. And maybe we maybe spend a few minutes on that later, Brendan. But
Okay.
maybe worth mentioning the Joe Gibbs stuff and what we're doing there as well, and what we're doing around biomechanics, because there's some really interesting things there that are coming down the pike for us as well. So, but jumping to the backboard product real quick. So we have wanted for some time to be able to build a cheaper, a less expensive, easier to install product. And the sensor technology just wasn't quite there, that we could do it in a way that the data was just as good, just as accurate, all of those type things. We could have built a product a few years ago, but the data wasn't quite as good. And so there's a particular sensor now that's available that we're using in our new backboard product. And you can line it up. You can't tell the difference in the data and the tracking capability. And you guys have seen it because I've spoke at several of your clinics. You saw me install it in 30 minutes. And we go up, we stick a sensor on the backboard. We got a little box that we mount, can really be mounted anywhere up there. And then you control everything from your phone or an iPad. And the reviews we have gotten on that product have just blown us away. We're so excited. It's simple. You get it up and going quickly. Players, this generation of players, they figure this stuff out really quick. Kind of a funny thing, had a coach say, "Well, hey, who's going to teach me how to use this? I'm an old dog, or whatever." And I was like, "Well, coach, you got any young people on your team?" "Well, yeah, we got all young people on our team." There you go. They will teach you how to do it. And he later said that's exactly what happened. And so it's really straightforward. It's simple. The kids have the data on their phone. They can share it with the coaches. We have all of the back-end stuff built together where if a player shoots, he can share that data automatically. He really doesn't have to do this but one time on the setup. It can share with his travel ball coach, share with his parents, share with his high school coaches, middle school coaches, whatever. All that kind of happens seamlessly. And the coach can hit one button on his phone and see the leaderboard. Who got up the most shots this week? Who had the best three-point make percentage? Who had the best NOAA score? We do a NOAA skill score now. It's like a QBR rating that takes everything into account, your make miss, your arc depth, left, right, and your consistency and control of all those things. And obviously the best are up in the 90s, approaching 100. And so we built this scale with all of our NBA teams, college and high school teams. It's really good.
That's really competitive. That's what makes guys get better and practice more. That's it. So you just introduced the high school. We're calling it the high school product or the backboard product, correct? Is that the proper terminology?
Yeah, we call it the backboard product.
Yep.
It's primarily focused on high schools and middle schools, but at the same time, we've sold it to a lot of colleges.
Yeah.
I think we have 3 or 4 Ivy League schools that have that product now. And so some of them will upgrade to the pro system down the road at some point, but at least they can get something in their gym right away and quickly see where their players are.
So ideally, if I'm a high school coach, should I get 1 or should I get 2?
Well,
and
what we're seeing so far is, 85 to 90% of our customers, and we've got a pretty growing customer base there. This product was just introduced in late April, but we've already moved several hundred systems. It's exceeded our expectations for sure. Most people are getting 2 if they can, because we also give them the ability to tag their games. And so when you have practice data, that's great, and you can see when kids are getting up shots, what we're really looking for here is we're trying to find their tendencies. We generally all have tendencies. Like for me, when I'm shooting, my tendency is to miss left, and it really makes me mad to miss left. It really does. I came in here earlier, this was yesterday actually, and got up about 300 shots. We have a half court here at our office, so and I come in twice a week and get up about 300 shots, and it really annoys me. Like, I'm in here unguarded, and I'm missing to the left. Why is that? So I do it less than I used to, but it still happens. So when you know those tendencies, you can correct those things, and you can certainly minimize them. And so that's really what we're trying to do here. And so again, you have practice data and individual workout data. That's great. You can turn the feedback on so players get feedback to change that. But then also imagine now having your game data.
Yeah.
And seeing what a player's doing different in games when pressure's on and defense is on.
Yeah, you want to definitely do games. That's monumental for your program. How about of the college that use the pro systems and the pro teams? Are they putting them in their practice facilities?
Yeah, primarily in the we have some of both at the college level.
Wow.
Like we just finished up. This is pretty common now for them to put our pro system in the practice gym because that's when guys have the most access, getting up the most shots. And then they'll put our backboard system, which is simple to install, in the arena. And then they can get guys some feedback. And in the arena, which obviously different, big open spaces, some people believe depth perception is different in big open venues like that. And so it gives them the ability to get feedback in both places.
That's a great idea. I didn't even know that. That's phenomenal. That's a really, really good idea. Any pro teams using it in their buildings?
They use it in the practice gyms throughout. The arenas, we're not really doing anything in game.
I would think it's a little more difficult with all the events that are coming in and out.
Yeah, they've got a lot of other stuff going on in there, and but hopefully we'll get there at some point as well.
Do you want to talk about the Joe Gibbs involvement now?
Yeah, no, I think that's worth talking about because I think this is an interesting topic for everyone listening here. I think we all want to know what is the perfect shot. Is it the one-piece shot, the two-piece shot? What are the things that lead to great shooting from a biomechanics standpoint? And nobody really knows the answer, in my opinion. And keep in mind, I've been doing this a long time. Most of the shooting gurus and experts in the world, as far as, whether it's NBA or college guys or some international guys, I've sat down with most of them at some point or another. And I hear different opinions from time to time as to what's going on. I sometimes tell this story. I'll tell it again here. But I had a call with an NBA team this past season, and they had a particular player. They did not have our technology at that time. They do now. And they had a particular player that was a star player that was struggling. And they had about 5 people on the call and a couple from our side. And more or less, almost every person on that call had a different opinion about what was going on with that player's shot. And so, unfortunately, they didn't have any data to really understand. It was just more or less the eyeball or the looking at, it seems like to me he's doing this. Seems like to me, he's doing that. And then the next guy says something different. I was like, well, how are you tracking? Well, we don't have anything, So, those type things, what we do currently is we give you the end result of that. You've seen we give rim maps, we give all the trajectory data, and we can see where a player's missing, et cetera. But what we don't do today is go back and look at, well, something different is happening here with the elbow. Something different is happening since this player had a left knee major surgery.
Wow.
All of those things have an impact. And so what we did, we have, as you know, we've got a lot of relationships, a lot of customers, and a platform that NBA teams and college teams love to use. And so we wanted to really, that's always been our strategy. We started at the rim. We're looking at entry angle, left, right, depth, position of the rim, et cetera, and we're kind of working our way back. Now we're tagging the players automatically, doing facial recognition. We're doing some other tagging. Now we're moving back even further to understand what happened before the shot and what happened during the shot. And so, as we approach this, a lot of teams are wanting to invest in that area. So Joe Gibbs Racing, which is what in the world does NASCAR have to do with basketball? They have a world-class human performance lab there in Charlotte. And they have been doing this motion capture stuff and all the kinetic and kinematic data collection for a decade now. And so more or less, they took a lab that's built to drive a NASCAR through to perform a pit stop, and they turned that into a basketball gym. And so that gym is equipped with millions of dollars worth of force plates underneath the wood floor. It also has a significant number of motion capture cameras. It has the NOAA technology installed, and they have had numerous players come through that lab, some NBA players, G League players. We've hosted, I don't know, a large number of NBA teams to come visit the lab. And we have fully automated doing all of the data collection around the biomechanics of a basketball shot. So someone comes in there and just does a workout like normal, and I think there's about 40 motion capture cameras that are grabbing all of this data from multiple views, and then we're basically tracking every joint throughout the basketball shot. And so, the things that we all, would like to know, I have no doubt we're gonna get to the bottom of that and really understand the answers. And one thing that teams really want to know, it's great to know what's the best way to shoot, or what are the things that are things that you can correct, that are easiest to correct, all those type things. But another thing that teams really want to know, what are the 2 or 3 things that a player could do from a mechanic standpoint that can prevent them from ever being a good shooter? So if you think about that, it's good to know, the things that work, but also what are the things that if a player does X and Y, they'll never shoot above 30% from a three-point line, as an example. So we're excited to get this out. We have, we'll be installing a couple of NBA teams here this fall, and I expect there'll be more that'll follow during the season. And we're going to collect this treasure trove of data to really understand once and for all. I made the comment at some of your clinics, you've heard me say that, and quoting Nick Nurse, the shooting is the most important skill in the game, but it's the least understood. I believe we're going to change that, where it's fully understood. And so that's our mission at this point.
And with especially in the NBA and college, with the amount of time and money they spend on analytics and understanding data and metrics, as our friend Nick Nurse's boss, Daryl Morey, says, analytics and data are great, but only when you figure out how it affects winning.
There you go.
This will affect winning in a huge way, in my opinion. So what's the biggest issue you think in shooting today?
It kind of varies by level. As an example, at the high school level and middle school level, players are not shooting the correct arc, the optimal arc. It's not a coincidence that almost every player in the NBA and WNBA does shoot the optimal arc. And even the ones that aren't shooting the absolute optimal, they're just so close. They're right on the edge. And so that the percentage is really strong. Where at the high school, middle school, you see players all over the place in a way that they cannot control the ball. It's so fun to have, and we've had a ton of, we've written and documented some of these success stories of players going from 25% from three to 40, almost overnight, just from changing the trajectory of their shot. From going from a 54-degree arc to a 45-degree arc. It makes that much of a difference in the control side of things. And and I'll tell you, this is the nerd in me as an engineer. But what do people say when a player goes from 30 to 40% from a 3-point line? It's like they improved 10 percentage points. Okay, well I look at it differently. No, they improved 33 percentage points. They went from 30 to 40. That means the ball goes in 33 and a third times more often. And if you do the math, when that player takes 10 shots, it's going to equate to more, not 10% more points. It's going to equate to a lot more points. And so those percentage moves like that are a really big deal. And so one thing we see at that level, at the high school level, you've got to get players shooting the correct trajectory. And then something that's kind of the cardinal sin in basketball shooting is missing too short. And that's a very solvable problem. We see at the NBA and the college level, the data is almost identical, that players miss short almost exactly twice as often as they miss long. So think about that for a second. So the bullseye, obviously, you'd miss about the same to the left and to the right, and the same percentage short and long. So it's 2-to-1 even at that level. At the high school level, sometimes we see players miss short 6 to 8 times as often as they miss long. Wow. And so you're the equivalent of the golfer that always leaves their putt short. They just don't go in. And so we just have a huge impact on teams, and that's what makes this a lot of fun when you see a kid that and the light really go off, and they can change the muscle memory, pretty quickly if they get in the reps.
Every coach and organization at the college and professional level says player development is their number one mission, to get a player better. This to me seems like there's so many things that you can't control when you try to get a player better. This is one of the few that you can, in my opinion, because you a lot of times when you're going out there, you're training a kid on his skills, dribbling, etc. Everything's on offense. But now when you're actually measuring every single shot a kid is taking, and you can see the results, there's nothing like this. This is game changer for me.
And there's a lot of things too, Brendan, that that are opinion based. I really try to stay away from those things.
Right.
And I get it. But the stuff that we're doing, this is just really physics. It's not this is not, John's opinion is you should shoot the ball deeper in the bat. No, that's what the data says, and I've got 650 million shots at all levels of basketball from 8-year-olds to and up to support that. So there's the guesswork is gone in that regard. And so, I just think that's, if we can talk about shooting deep in the basket for a second. One thing that a lot of us were trained in growing up, and I used to just like it because it was cool. I always loved to swish the shot. You know, I used to like to have such a pure shot that it would hang the net. That was always a cool thing. Of course, I think they've got rid of the anti-whip nets now, and it doesn't happen as much anymore. But that was the shot was really pure when it would take that net and wrap it around like that. But if you and everybody, please listen to this. Anybody that's watching this podcast, if you're training a player to swish every shot, you are training them to miss short. So if you're training them to swish the shot, you're going to shoot it 9 inches deep in the basket. It's an 18-inch rim, so that player will train, their brain will figure out how to shoot it 9 inches deep in the basket so they can swish the most shots. Well, what you've done is got them to shoot the ball 2 inches too short. The perfect shot depth is 11 inches deep in the basket. It's 2 inches past center, okay? There's 2 types of guaranteed scores. One is the swish. Everybody loves that shot. But the second one is we call it a Brad shot. It stands for back rim and down. If the ball is reasonably straight and the top half of the ball hits the back of the rim, it's just going to score. And last time I checked, that still counts as a 3, 2, or free throw, whatever it is. It still counts the same. There's no style points. I'll tell you a really quick, funny story about you guys have met my younger son, Michael.
Right.
So Michael, I had him, I've always loved to get other people to train my kids because they're hard-headed and don't listen to dad. You know how that is. And he was doing this little group workout with a guy up in Nashville. And actually both mine, Jonathan was in there too, my older son. And so this guy's working them really hard. And then he would have them shoot free throws, which is a very common thing to do.
Sure.
And do this drill, run. Now we're going to shoot some free throws. And Michael, he never missed a free throw during this competition. He finished the day. I think it was 5 kids, and he didn't miss one. He's about 12, 13 years old. He's competitive as everything. So then the coach, he's keeping notes on what he basically was doing. If they swished the free throw, they got extra points.
Yep.
If they scored, but it hit the rim, they only got, I think it was 1 point, and if they missed it, didn't get any. And so anyway, we get through this workout. Michael doesn't miss one. He finished last because he hit the back of the rim on almost every made shot.
How about that?
And so again, being a competitive 12-year-old, he comes up, that's ridiculous. I can't believe blah, blah. I was like, Michael, hush. He doesn't know, But it's just you need a combination of swish and Brad shots. Kind of the absolutely ideal perfect shot if you want to get that from a depth standpoint. It's coming in at 45 degrees, and it's just right at the back of the rim, maybe barely nicks the back of the rim. And so now, if I'm a little long, it's going to be a Brad shot. If I'm short, it's going to be a swish. But if you're doing nothing but swishes, you absolutely will miss short way more than you should. And so I always tell coaches, you guys have heard me say it, if you don't listen to anything else I say, believe me on this, get the ball deep in the basket, make sure you're giving the ball a chance, to score, and your percentage will go up.
John, your overall mission for Noah, this journey that you've been on now, and now with the incredible success you're having, and it keeps getting more, what's the dream?
We want every kid to reach their potential, whatever that is, at the end of the day. And there's a ton of kids out there that aren't reaching their potential. Some of them might. And listen, that's different for everyone. It could just be making the team, okay, for some kids. It could be, actually becoming a starter on their team. It could be playing at the next level. But what we do know is until you correct and understand the arc depth and left right of your shot, a player will not reach their full potential. Now, there are some players that are there because they're elite from a talent standpoint, and they're very close, but we really haven't seen anyone that couldn't make some level of improvement. I love to talk about Steph Curry, the best shooter of all time. Sure. Steph uses our stuff. His trainer was on a podcast recently talking about how they use the left-right. And, this is the best shooter ever. And he really focuses on the left-right feedback. And if it's not within -2, again, shooting a 25, 30-foot shot, and if it's not within 2 inches of dead straight, they don't count it. That's chasing perfection.
As also being a huge Steph Curry fan, I was blown away when you told me that he's measuring his misses and left right. Explain that to me. And can you measure left and right?
Yeah. So this was kind of one of the things that we'd wanted to do from the beginning. That was really difficult. You got to be able to do things in 3D space. It's kind of a technical hurdle and challenge to do that. But what we do, wherever that player is shooting on the court, and this is our backboard system, pro system. The backboard system has the same stuff. So when a player is shooting the basketball, we find the point on the rim that's closest to that player, and that's how we measure left-right. So we do that dynamically with every shot. And so now with that, I can tell what a player's left-right consistency level is. And so, we measure that. And so, for example, we can look at percentile-wise and see where a player stacks up. We know, because we have all the data, that if a player isn't at least at X percentile-wise on left-right consistency, they're never going to be a great shooter.
Wow.
And so that's a really key component to it. And so, I give an example of a Division I team here recently that coach I've known for a long time asked me to come in and look at one of their players. We did kind of a deep dive. They have our stuff. And what was great about it is we were able to go in and look at all the data, the trajectory, the arc, the depth, the left, right, to understand which of these areas was this player deficient in. And what we found was they assumed that they probably needed to rebuild his shot in some way, really look at mechanics, kind of dig through this a little bit deeper. And what we found is his left-right consistency was in kind of the 70% range as compared to NBA players. And that's good enough to be a much better shooter than this particular player was last year. And so what we found is the problem with that player was the trajectory being inconsistent and at times too high, something we've talked about at length during our time here. And so I fully expect this player will be improved next year. But again, since we had the information, back to I was talking about the NBA team where they didn't have the information, they're guessing at what they need to work on. This particular team that has all of our stuff, they know precisely what to work on. And they thought maybe it was a little bit more of a left-right thing and a mechanics thing, which it really wasn't. So that's the type of stuff that we enjoy doing, and we know that we can, somewhat write prescription on what that player needs to work on to improve their shooting. And if you know that, think about how much time has been wasted in the gym chasing a ghost to try to make, and there ends up being just this trial and error period between the. And listen, we're not trying to replace the shooting coaches. We want to give them information and data that they can track their improvements and track their changes and see exactly, so they're more efficient.
You know, also, John, shooting is one of those rare skills that confidence comes and goes.
Sure.
And if you can provide that player with a solution, his confidence skyrockets. My opinion.
Absolutely.
Because you have really good shooters that get in slumps, and they don't, and no one's there to help them figure it out before you've had this data where you can actually show them.
Yeah.
To me, that is also something that is a real big difference, because you just keep telling the guy, "Hey, keep shooting, keep shooting." Well, he keeps shooting the wrong shot. He can't correct the mistake.
That's a really great point, Brendan. And in fact, in this particular instance, I actually told this particular player that. I said, "Look, there's nothing wrong with your shot. You're good, but you do need to address this and this if you want to improve your shooting percentage from three in particular. That's just and so. But the good news here, you're shooting the ball straight enough to be successful, and that's the most challenging piece is shooting the ball straight. And this player was not even below average in that regard. So
and now he's excited to go and fix it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Because now you're not telling him something's wrong, and just that. I think that's what's a sound? Is there a sound that when one of your shots goes in perfectly?
So really fun thing is you get if you get your arc and your depth and your left right within a particular range, you get this cha-ching, and this young generation of players, they love getting the cha-ching. You remember your demo guys in Las Vegas?
Yes.
I haven't told you guys this, but they just recently called and purchased systems for their school there in Arizona. So we're excited to have them on board. But the big guy, I remember in particular, he was really into this, and he was getting cha-chings, and he was grinning, and it was awesome.
That is great. That is good. Hey, I know we're going to get swamped with a lot of coaches that are going to say, "How do I get a hold of Noah Basketball?" What's the best way to get, for them to contact your sales folks?
Sure. They certainly can email us at sales, S-A-L-E-S, at noahbasketball.com. And then they can call us at 888-TRY-NOAH, which I think is whatever that is, 879-6624 maybe. Don't quote me on that. But 888-TRY, T-R-Y, NOAH, for those of us that have old phones. So anyway, but the best way is just reach out to us. You also can go to our website. There's a contact us form. I don't mind sharing exactly what our pricing is. I want people to know, like our backboard product is $1,500 per hoop as an upfront activation fee. And then for a high school team, it's a $1,200 a year service fee. You can split that with the boys and girls programs. Again, it's still money, but it's certainly way less expensive than what we've done in the past. And also, we've completely eliminated the installation hurdles. For an NBA team or a college team decides to install this, they just install it. It's not, they spend the money. But, we've had so many high school coaches that wanted to install our previous version of the product, and then they comes down to the installation and they just can't quite do it because that by the time they have to do the install and get a lift in there and all that, it's just too difficult. So we're excited about this new product and how we can reach so many people.
I after seeing so much of it the last several months, John, I don't know if there's a high school in America that can, or anywhere, frankly, in the world that can justify not having one, not having two of them in there. Because if they're really focused on the boys and girls programs getting better, it's a no-brainer to me. I am so excited. Zach and I are so excited to partner with you in this because it has just been phenomenal for us to learn to make a great friend and to really, we share in your vision of growing the game and helping kids and coaches. So I think this is why it's such a special relationship we have.
No, absolutely. Same here. Really enjoyed getting to know you guys and a lot of the people that follow and coaching you. It's been a lot of fun, and and at the end of the day, we want we want to see people improve. We want to see teams, we talk about making more shots and winning more games. It's a really fine line at times between winning and losing, and so we want to help you with that.
John Carter, CEO, Noah Basketball. Wow, what a time for us to be on this, and I am so excited about what's going to happen. We're going to have also in our show notes, we'll have people ways to also get it together and how they can contact you at Noah and your team. And again, if you're ever driving through beautiful Huntsville, Alabama, stop by and see them.
Come see us.
Yes, absolutely.
One thing that's really good, and we do this every single Monday, and we always have a good crew on there, is sign up for our free webinar. And we do that every Monday. I think it's at 3 o'clock Central Time. Now, if someone can't make that, just reach out to us and we'll schedule something, specifically just for your program. But we have people on that webinar every week, and
wow.
We go through the product. We go through some of the same type stuff that we've talked about here today in a more condensed way, and just talk about the product and how you can install it and all those type things. So that's something I would encourage people. If you go to our website, you're probably going to get a pop-up to sign up for that, so you're not going to have to look for that too hard.
That's great. John, this is fabulous, man. I'm excited. I am so excited. I got to go get a team to coach, man. I got to get it. I am so freaking excited. I've been screwing kids for all this time. Now I'm telling you, it is the best. It's the best thing I've seen in basketball in years. I mean, and it's for kids and coaches. I just think it's really great. And you combine it with all the other resources you can get in basketball to help. This is something that addresses simply their skills, and I love it. Thanks.
No, I appreciate those comments, Brandon. We're excited as well. And then one last thing I'll say is, for those people that are listening here that that aren't coaching a team, but they've got a couple of kids at home, we do have a driveway product as well. It's called the Hoops app, and it basically only works on an iPhone or an iPad, and so you can set it up in your driveway. It's not as detailed, three-dimensional like we're talking about here, but if you want to get some basic feedback on arc and depth, you can get that from the Hoops app, and you can find that in the App Store. And we'll continue to do other things for the consumer in the future, but that's what we have today.
John, thank you for sharing, and again, I know our listeners are going to be so excited about this. Appreciate you sharing everything with us today.
Thank you, guys.